Hello everyone who's watching this. I'm almost certain no one knows me on this platform, considering it's my first video. Exception being my friends, of course. It's kind of ironic that I wanted to be a gaming channel and my first video is about me quitting a game, but what the hell, huh? Sorry about my voice. I don't usually sound like this, but I'm a little under the weather. Anyways, let me give you a little background into my life. I'm 19, I live in Canada, and I like to play games. And my life's been taken over by one of them called League of Legends. And I like to speak my experiences about this game. The good times, the bad times, mostly the bad times though. Now, I've been playing this game since the middle of 2015, near the end of the ranked season of Season 5. I never really found interest in the game, and I usually hate MOBAs. I used to play countless hours of CSGO, and this is where I developed a hard shell. People shit-talking you gets kind of annoying. I mean, someone calling you a squeaker literally every game, you get used to it. So you'd either ignore players or just mute them. But Valve never really did punish people for being toxic. I only personally remember them punishing players for cheating and griefing, and I completely agreed with that. Now Valve obviously didn't have the best anti-cheat, but their message was clear. You cheat and you'll eventually get banned. You ruin the game for others and you quite possibly might get banned. Now the reason I started playing League of Legends was because CSGO was infested with hackers at the time, and my friend told me I should just download League. So I gave it a shot. The game looked amazing, there were so many characters to choose from, and so many different mechanics to learn. The outplay potential was infinite. I was immediately hooked. I started spending lots of hours on the game, completely forgetting about Counter-Strike. I found my new favorite game, and I knew I was going to spend a lot of time on it. I mean, a game with no cheats, I knew that if I would die, it's because I was getting outplayed by some higher skilled players. Or so I thought. The game has a lot of diversity, so obviously there would be some things that would piss me off about it. Champion changes, balance changes, champion reworks, runes, and mastery reworks. But that all needed to happen. Games need to evolve. But nothing pisses me off more than the League of Legends meta. Every new meta since Season 6, I've threatened to quit. One of the things that push me to quit right now is the burst damage meta, and in my opinion, the worst state the game has ever been in since the Juggernaut rework. Now in my first placements, I ended Bronze 1, and then grinded up to Silver. Not much of a grind, I know. But the season after that, I managed to reach Platinum Elo. I consider myself good, and that's when the addiction started hitting. I would spend my days watching videos, learning new mechanics, watching highlight vids, trying to learn how to convert the things I learned online into my everyday gameplay. That's also around the time where I used to play my childhood sport, soccer. Eventually I was not practicing, and lost my spot on my inner city team. It's not a big deal to some people I know, but it was important to me. I was emotional about it, but I thought that maybe I would invest more time into League and try to get better. And I did invest a lot of time, but that was my mistake. The more I look into my current gameplay, the more I realize I'm not a good player. Platinum isn't a good elo to be in, and people in this elo shouldn't be considered high elo. I've honestly seen better team play from lower ranks, but I just kept lying to myself that I'm gonna get better, but I never really did. Which brings me to my next point. The impact this game has and will have had on my life starting now. The emotional impact this game has had on my life has been one of the biggest. I constantly have the urge to give up on the game, I start feeling faint in the heart, and I feel empty. But I would think it's only a game and I would just go next. Move on. Now eventually when you lose a lot, you get mad and start getting mad at your teammates. You ruin your temper and start retaliating. The littlest of things could take you off, and that's the worst. Being a ticking time bomb, just waiting for something to push you over the edge. Till you let loose, and that was the worst feeling. Living on the edge of your temper before someone just gives you that little nudge to go off, and it's a horrible feeling. I hope no one has to go through it, but I know everyone does. But that's what Riot wants. Because it makes them money. Showing emotions in a game means you genuinely care about it, and Riot knows that. And they know you're emotionally invested, they have another way to exploit money out of you, and it's just simple marketing for them. League of Legends had a huge impact on my physicality, my appearance, my athleticism, and my will to eat. I used to play soccer almost daily, and then once I got cut, my athleticism went down the drain, and I lost a lot of my cardio and endurance. This obviously changed the way I look, but the worst of all is that I didn't want to eat anymore. I just wanted to play constantly. I would put off eating with my family just to try to gain LP, and at a certain point I'd realize that maybe I am addicted, and that my family's right. But being self-aware didn't change anything. Knowing I had an addiction didn't make me want to play less. In fact, it had no impact on my willingness to quit at all. The psychological impact this game had on me isn't as bad, but it's one of the reasons I was addicted. I had a love-hate relationship with the game, but now I realize I have more hate for it than love. The false sense of gratification when you would gain LP is one of the things that kept me hooked. Thinking some number on a screen actually mattered to me was the most painful thing, and it just kept me going for some reason. Now Riot's animation team does an amazing job of creating new teasers and skin videos for their company, and I won't hold that against them. A lot of people have a lot of love for beautiful visuals, and if something pleases their eyes, they will be interested in it. This leads to a whole new way to introduce new players and keep veteran players hooked to their game. Also, Riot's lore team is quite outstanding. They know how to make amazing stories about champions to attract a different type of video game player, and that's story lovers. Riot uses this to their advantage to make money off players. In order for a game to evolve, it has to constantly change. But the way Riot changes is always in the wrong way, from buffing champs that don't need buffs to making reworks for champs that aren't needed. Adding new forms of CC that can be considered almost counter playlist, Riot always makes a step in the wrong direction, and that's to misguide their player base into thinking that they're actually listening to their community. Take for example Nasus and Sejuani. Nasus received a buff that would give him plus 12 stacks on his Q passive rather than 6, when he last hits an enemy champion, a big jungle monster, or a cannon minion. This change wasn't needed. The way Riot thinks that if a champion isn't played, it means you need to change it. And they need to understand that that's not the case. Sometimes the champion's kit is meant to be boring and are meant to be farm based. And in Sejuani's case, she's a boring champion, but she's a champion that you pick when you think you need a tank with heavy CC. All her base damages were increased and her tank stats skyrocketed to 9.1. All that leads to is a champ that's unfun to play against and a champ that will constantly be abused until it's nerfed. Because people don't play doesn't mean it needs to be changed, and changing it will temporarily fix the problem of it being less played, but will create a toxic environment against champs that no one wants to play against because they're being abused for LP. One of the things that can attract new players as well are ads, recommended videos on YouTube, and the high Twitch viewer rate during League of Legends championships. Hell, even nowadays when I go on Facebook, I get suggested League of Legends gameplay. All this can attract a new player to just give the game a try, and that's all they need to eventually get a player hooked to the game. This is proof that their advertising division really knows what they're doing and how to get new players to play the game. Now, I'd be able to let all of that slide if it weren't for the banning system in League of Legends. Riot constantly tries to shape their community to be less toxic, and they don't realize that's not possible since they're constantly creating a toxic environment for their players. Riot prioritizes banning people that talk bad about other players in the chat rather than people that genuinely have a huge impact on the game, like people running it down, people AFKing, or people just not trying to win. And when you have all those things in a competitive environment, your community will forever be toxic. And it seems like Riot's plan is to ban out all the people that are toxic, and then what? You throw the non-toxic players back into the shitty environment you've created for your own game, and those people will eventually turn toxic too. An endless cycle of toxicity. Now, Riot Games made $2.1 billion in revenue in 2017 alone. When you think about it, that's a lot of money for a free-to-play game. They make their money off cosmetics and champion/skin capsules. $2.1 billion. That's a shit ton of money off of just skins. And the reason they create a reform system is so that they can reward you with cosmetics. Oh, you're being nice? Take a skin capsule. You haven't told someone to kill themselves in 20 games? How about an honor capsule? This is what makes an environment toxic. People get their skins and they're back to being the same way. And this is proof that Riot doesn't know how to treat their community. When people are playing a competitive game like League and get matched up with players on their team that have no interest in winning, they easily get mad. And when a player that wants to win sees that the player that ran down a lane because you didn't gank doesn't get banned, but instead you get banned for calling said Inter a piece of shit, they start to realize that the game is going down the drain and should be considered a joke in the gaming community. And that's what it is, a laughingstock. This is why League of Legends will always have their community labeled most toxic. Now, I'm not making this as a video to bash Riot. Actually, who am I kidding? Yeah, I am. In the end, they're a business. They strive off money and leech off consumers. Once the shininess of their cosmetics run out, they will eventually start to realize how bad of a company they are. They're going down the same path as certain companies that are getting bashed right now. For example, Blizzard Games and EA. Two companies that have changed from making community-guided changes to things that will eventually make them more money. There's a whole video about an avid World of Warcraft player complaining about how the game is going down the drain, and I recommend you check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. Anyways, these companies started as just an idea. They were meant to create something beautiful. Hell, even nowadays people still play World of Warcraft, and this game still has a very loyal fanbase. But in EA's case, games like FIFA are just regurgitated HD remakes of last year's version, and they make it every year. And I have a feeling they make more money off microtransactions than they do off sales of their actual game. Now, all these things have led me to consider quitting League of Legends, because it's the same thing over again. The company doesn't care about the community. They use pros and content creators as a way to promote their game. They come out with new champion releases that no one enjoys playing against, and this is what's wrong. They attract players with flashiness and cool champions, and every single time it works. People are still hooked, and I was one of those people. Not anymore. Now the main purpose of this video is not to tell you to not play League of Legends, but to influence new players and veteran players about taking a step back and looking at the direction the game is going. And if I could change at least one person's perspective, then I know what I did genuinely worked. And if I didn't, then so be it. I'll just wait till someone finds this video and understands what I'm trying to say. That'll be enough for me as well. I ask of you to please share this video with people that you think might be a little addicted to the game, like I was at some point, and genuinely convince them to take a few minutes out of their day to watch this without a bias. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video and subscribe as a way of telling me you want me to make more videos of this caliber. Also, comment to let me know what you think about this video. I genuinely am interested about what other people think about this topic, and I always think it's an interesting thing to discuss. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good one.